Hello, and welcome to First Chapter Friday. This week we're going to be following The Silence Between Us by Alison Gervais. And it follows Maya, who is moving across the country. She lost her hearing at age 13, and she's about to start going to a hearing school for the first time since she lost her hearing. And she's very nervous. But when she gets in and gets adjusted, she's surprised at how many of the kids she likes and how nice they are, and how to help make her feel more welcome, they're even learning sign language for her. But there are also people in her life who keep acting like her deafness is a disability. And, she faces some romance opportunities, and all along she's fighting for herself, to stay true to herself and her deaf culture and not look at her impairment as a disadvantage. And, Maya's a smart girl. She knows where she wants to go and how to get there, and she's not going to let anyone get in her way. So if you're interested in this story, here is the first chapter. The Silence Between Us, Chapter 1. I hadn't set foot inside a hearing school in almost 5 years. And yet here Mom and I were, sitting in our minivan, in the parking lot at Engelman High School, a hearing school. We'd been waiting about 15 minutes, and not once had my heart stopped pounding out a painful rhythm in my chest. Mom reached over and tapped my knee, and I looked up from my lap, where I'd been picking at a loose thread on my tie-dye t-shirt. She signed, "Ready?" I felt myself exhaling heavily. I was most certainly not ready, but it wasn't like I had much of a choice. Hearing school was definitely not my idea, but with the closest school for the deaf being over an hour away from our new home near Parker, Colorado, we weren't left with many options. "Ready," I signed. "Wait, not help me." Yet again, I found myself glad that American Sign Language was my preferred method of communication. It was short, sweet, to the point, and nowhere near as formal as English. I doubted I would have been able to string together any one sentence that would make an ounce of sense in English right then. Mom gave me an overly bright smile as she unfastened her seatbelt and opened the car door. "Don't worry," I saw her sign as I unbuckled my own seatbelt. It was kind of hard not to worry when I knew I was about to become the weird new girl with an interpreter following her around all day. Talk about making an impression. I'd never had to worry about an interpreter before, because at the Pratt School for the Deaf, the school I'd gone to back in Jersey, 90% of the staff were deaf or hard of hearing, and those that weren't knew ASL and could communicate effectively. At Engelman High, I was going to be the one and only deaf student, an honor I wasn't so sure I was ready to accept. I grabbed my backpack and hoisted it up on my shoulder as Mom locked the car, and we began the slow walk toward my certain doom. Okay, so maybe that was a bit dramatic, but the last time I'd gone to a hearing school, I'd actually been, hearing. I'd gone to Pratt for so long and gotten used to being around deaf people or HOH people who spoke my language, and now I was going to have to resort to lip reading and struggling to follow basic conversation. And then there was the matter of using my voice, which had me all but paralyzed with fear. I was oral because I'd lost my hearing long after I acquired basic language skills. But the issue was that I couldn't hear my own voice anymore. Using my voice was sometimes a knee-jerk reaction when I was around people who didn't sign, like the home health care nurses that used to come over a few times a week back in New Jersey to help take care of Connor while Mom was busy working as an associate for a company that specializes in harnessing wind energy. Even though there was nothing wrong with my voice, I hoped, using it was just downright weird. I couldn't hear myself speak, but I could feel the sound of reverberation in my skull whenever I spoke. It was a sensation I wasn't all that fond of. Last Friday, Mom and I met with my new teachers, the principal, and the interpreter the school district arranged to accompany me to all my classes this year. And today, my interpreter would be the one introducing me to people, communicating with and voicing for me with teachers, and which was a surefire way to end up a social outcast by the final bell. The interpreter's name was Kathleen. She seemed nice enough, and she obviously enjoyed interpreting, given how much feeling she put into it, a big part of signing, to begin with. No matter how nice she was, though, she was still a stranger. Mom put her hand on my shoulder as we approached the main entrance of the school and signed, "Breathe, you fine here." I shrugged, biting my lower lip. There was no point in correcting her. Plus, my palms were starting to sweat because I was so nervous, and signing with sweaty palms was never fun. Kathleen, nice, right? Mom signed before she held open the door for me. "I know you will like her." "Fine," I signed back, not wanting to press the issue. I hated finger-spelling long names, and I made a mental note to ask Kathleen what her sign name was. Sign names were typically representative of the individual, so I bet Kathleen's sign name had something to do with her flyaway red hair. My sign name was technically the sign for sweet, because apparently the deaf teacher who taught my first ASL class thought I was sweet when she gave it to me. I didn't think that applied so much anymore. My given name, Maya, was a much better fit. "But," Mom pressed. "But hearing school," I signed, making a sweeping gesture around the school's lobby we were now standing in. Rows of faded red lockers lined the hallway on either side of the entrance. Straight ahead was the main office, a huge clock bolted to the wall above the door displaying the time at 7:15, almost a half hour before school started. "Not all hearing school's bad," Mom signed, giving me an earnest look. "Think you will like school here." My new interpreter, Kathleen, came walking out of the main office to greet us. Her mess of red curls pulled up into a bun. She signed, "Good morning," with a perky smile. I wasn't going to bother with a response, but I saw Mom's stern scowl out the corner of my eye, so I forced myself to sign back, "Good morning." "Excited?" Kathleen asked me. "First day new school?" I shrugged, signing sure. "Dr. Rivera, wait for us," Kathleen signed, finger spelling the principal's name, and she gestured behind her to the main office. "Your schedule ready." "Wonderful," I signed, though I wasn't sure if the expression on my face was as sarcastic as I wanted. "Kathleen, not do something wrong," Mom signed as we followed after Kathleen. "Nice," she added in a nonverbal threat, pointing to a finger at me. "Always nice," I signed to my mom, resting my hand on my chest and batting my eyelashes. Mom rolled her eyes, and I knew she was giving one of her world-weary sighs by the way her shoulders slumped. I officially lost my hearing when I was 13, 4 years ago, but I still remembered what some things sounded like, and Mom's dramatic sighs were firmly ingrained in my memory. The school secretary was seated behind a massive desk just inside the office, and she nodded to Kathleen when we walked in. I watched her say good morning as Kathleen pulled open a door that led into the inner part of the main office where the principal, Dr. Rivera, other school administrators, and the nurse worked. Dr. Rivera's office was small and dimly lit with the blinds pulled down, which had made lip reading difficult when we met with him last Friday. I had an interpreter with me, sure, but at the same time, I wanted to at least appear like I could understand what was being said. I wasn't incompetent. Dr. Rivera was standing behind his desk when the three of us entered his office. This time, the bright overhead lights were on. The small accent lamp on his desk turned off. Standing beside the one window in the room, arms crossed and looking just about as uncomfortable as I felt, was a girl with a high ponytail wearing a dressy skirt and blouse. I froze in the doorway. Had Engelman assigned me a second interpreter? Or was this girl fresh out of twerp school here to shadow Kathleen and add to my already awkward entourage? "Two interpreter?" I signed frantically to Mom. "Don't need two interpreter." Before my mom could reply, Kathleen jumped into the conversation, signing not interpreter, pointing to the girl by the window. The girl was wearing stylish square-rimmed glasses, but I could see her dark eyes flicking over the door like she wanted to make a break for it, but was forcing herself to stay put. "You and me both, girlfriend," I thought. "Her name, Inatorres," Kathleen fingerspelled, pointing to the girl. Nina clearly didn't know a lick of sign language, but she sure knew we were talking about her with all the pointing we were doing. Don't understand, I signed to Mom and Kathleen. Who? She. Why is she here? Dr. Rivera was talking quickly now, picking up on the tense atmosphere. But I couldn't even think of lip reading at the moment. I wanted to know what this girl Nina was doing here. Kathleen brushed her fingers along her forearm, the sign for slow, and Dr. Rivera paused, pink in the face. He'd probably never dealt with a deaf kid, like everyone else in the school. I was willing to bet, and I could tell he wasn't quite sure what to do. Nina, wonderful student, Kathleen was signing as Dr. Rivera gestured to Nina, who still looked beyond embarrassed with her cheeks blazing red. We asked her to be your peer mentor for the first 2 weeks here. Don't understand, I signed in confusion, shaking my head. Dr. Rivera waved his hands around like he was giving some dramatic Shakespearean monologue as he explained what a peer mentor was. I only caught a few words of what he was saying, like great student and grades, and something about student council. He hadn't really seemed to pick up on the whole, you need to slow down so the deaf kid can understand you thing. Nina, show you your classes, Kathleen explained to me. Walk you around school. Make sure you have a good time. I should have seen this coming. She my babysitter? I signed, jabbing a finger at Nina. Walk me around? Have hearing kids make friend with new deaf girl? Mom was pursing her lips, looking uncomfortable while Kathleen relayed what I said to Dr. Rivera and Nina. I watched Nina's face fall as she listened to Kathleen, and I felt a momentary twinge of guilt. I wanted to get used to that idea of being in a hearing school again at my own pace, not just be thrown to the wolves and expected to make friends with the first hearing kid to cross my path. Not like that, Kathleen interpreted as Nina started to speak. Once you enjoy Engelmann. Impossible, I signed back immediately. I saw Mom give another one of those sighs and scrunch her eyes closed. She took a moment to collect herself and signed to me. Work with her. I know you not happy, but try. Please. It was the expression on her face that ultimately made me back down. She looked so tired and worn down, and I knew it was partially because of me. I hadn't made things easy on her since she announced we were moving. I knew she was doing everything she could to make life good for us out here. She had enough to worry about with my little brother, Connor. When you have a son with cystic fibrosis, somehow your deaf teenager ends up being the less difficult one. Maybe not so much attitude-wise, though. Okay, I signed, reaching over to squeeze her forearm. Sorry. Okay, Mom signed, a wobbly smile on her lips. We sat in the 2 chairs in front of Dr. Rivera's desk as he sat down again, looking relieved the storm had passed. Kathleen beckoned Nina closer before moving behind Dr. Rivera's desk, standing directly in my line of sight to interpret. This was pretty much the last thing in the world I wanted to be doing, but probably the sooner I accepted this whole hearing school thing as my new normal, the better off I might be. So that is our First Chapter Friday for today. I hope you enjoyed it. You can find this book at your school library, your public library, or you can always buy your own copy. It is under $10 on Amazon right now. It is also one of the 2021 Lone Star reads, so you know it's going to be good. Happy reading.